Good afternoon. My name is Mike, and today I'm going to do about a 45-minute practice. Now, I'm out in the back of the clubhouse area of my apartment complex, and with the lighting, of course, I apologize. It's the bright lights behind me, but we'll see how we can make this work. Maybe next time I'll use my actual light stands, but I didn't want to take up too much space here. There's also some music playing because I think there's an event going on. But I think this microphone I'm using should probably filter out my voice from any other sounds. So background's pretty well blurred with the light, and hopefully you can at least see my shape and listen to my voice. Honestly, I haven't done yoga in about a week. Been doing a lot of writing assignments, doing massage. I just taught actually an online class for this associate's degree I'm teaching in, which is pretty cool. It's a massage and natural health associate's degree, but they have me teaching a psychology class online as part of it. So I enjoyed doing that, but I do need to find more time to open up, to move the body, get some twists in, maybe some inversions perhaps. And so that's what the practice will be about today, is easing into some movement and noticing in the body and the breathing as well. About 45-minute practice. Let me restart this timer. All right, there we go. So we'll start with a seated posture. Noticing our sit bones rooted into the ground, and then bracing the core, maintaining that posterior pelvic tilt. Taking a few breaths here, keeping the shoulders relaxed, but kind of a straight back, so to speak, and raising the head up towards the sky, the top of the head up. Taking a few breaths, grounding down into the ground, and reaching with the top of the head. Taking a few moments here. Let's move right into cat-cow pose. We'll move through these foundational movements pretty, kind of ease into it, noticing in our body everything. For example, in our cat-cow pose, we have our hands, fingers spread wide like this, and knees below the hips. We can even notice if our palms need stretching or if they're expanded all the way. So exhaling, curling the sacrum down and rounding the shoulders on the back. Inhaling and opening up. Exhaling, lowering back down. Inhaling, opening up. Exhaling, curling back down. Do this a few more rounds. Inhaling, opening up. And exhaling, curling back. On each inhale, opening, we can press our shoulders back and down. Exhaling, rounding the back. Doing that as many times as you need, and then returning to neutral. And from here, we can move our hips side to side here, kind of a movement to the left and right a little bit, opening in the sides, kind of the obliques the hip attachments. Now we'll do thread the needle, where you're putting one arm and maintaining that kind of tabletop, the four points of contact on the ground, but then releasing one hand, threading the arm underneath the opposite shoulder, keeping the back kind of flat and twisting towards that side. Taking a few breaths here. And releasing and then moving to the other side. Kind of wondering if a phone camera would work better for this, because this is a webcam camera, and the way the lighting is, it's really a phone camera might work better, or actually a professional type camera, or adjusting the settings somehow. So I apologize about the lighting, but trial and error. Here we go. We'll do another thread the needle, twisting to each side. Here, noticing both knees and the hips are moving towards being squared towards the mat, but we're kind of twisting from the hips and into the upper torso. Taking a few breaths with each twist. And then we'll move on to the other side again. Now let's move into a downward facing dog. So pressing back, first we'll start with just, if you want to move right into down dog, that's fine, but pedaling the feet, as they say. Kind of pressing back into each heel and noticing the feeling, the sensation. Maybe moving right into the down dog. At any time, you can also return to the knees and then continue with that same pedaling the feet action if you want. So let's move into another down dog with pedaling the feet. So just getting some releasing going on. And then returning back to that kneeling posture. We'll come back to the seated, having our kind of a zazen posture here, like meditation posture. Now we're going to move to a standing pose. So we'll step forward with each foot towards the front of the mats and come to standing. Up from here, we'll move into warrior one, stepping back with one foot, keeping the front knee bent a bit, and kind of moving our hips towards squaring the front. You can feel that the back foot is kind of at an angle along that back edge. And if you want, you can lunge forward a bit, noticing the sensation around the ankles into the thigh muscles, into the foot, and then taking some breaths here. You want to lunge past your foot if you want to move your body around a bit, but it's really just like noticing the sensation, that releasing. As an option, you can raise your arms. There's the muscles tight, so I lost my balance there. Now you can kind of force it and you just feel what's going on. Now, let's step back, let's step forward. Actually, in the interest of time, we'll move into Warrior 2 here. So now we're gonna move that back foot more facing parallel, still lunging forward, then opening the hips to the side. Then extending the arms, looking over the front fingertips, easing over the front fingertips as we're lunging. It's Warrior 2. Whatever's comfortable on your knees, you don't want to overdo anything. So if you need to adjust your stance with noticing that the floor is braced a bit, maybe turn towards the side. Opening from the knee outwards. And let's step back to both feet into the front of the mat, into what they call mountain pose or Tadasana. Now let's step back with the other foot. Now you can stay on the same side mat, but I'm going to actually switch so you can see better. Now I'm stepping back with the other foot into Warrior 1. Those hips kind of moving squared with the front. Lunging and holding here. Working towards that posterior pelvic tilt. Not so much of a sway back, but kind of pulling the hips down forward like this. That's a posterior pelvic tilt. Like that. Taking a few breaths here. Then there's an option to raise the arms. Definitely noticing the sensation along the sides of the body. We can go move it to Warrior 2, having the back foot have parallel on the side of the mat. And extending the arms, looking over the fingertips. Now we can move towards stepping towards the front of the mat again. Into Warrior 1, into a non-pose. Taking a few breaths here. Now we'll add a little bit of meditation at the end of this practice. Let's again move into some awareness, some releasing and opening. Standing in Tadasana and stepping back with the first leg that you step back with the first time. that same stance, but we'll move into a reaching overhead type pose. So lunging at with the front knee, resting. We're not really resting, but we're engaging the core as we're bringing that forearm down to the front knee. So this part of the forearm is above the knee. It's not obviously on the knee. It's kind of on the thigh right above the knee. But if you lifted it off, your core would be engaging. So you're not like just dumping into it like that. You're just kind of using it as a contact point. Scooping up with the opposite arm, twisting towards the sky, and then looking overhead. Stretching through that side, the upper side, and twisting. Few breaths here. They can step to the front of the mat and go to the other side. In this case, I'm just going to switch around, or if you want to switch around to like this, it's fine. See, you end up in the same stance. It's like the start of Warrior One. We're going to move so we have the same. I don't know if you could hear that gate slamming down there, but it's just the gate to the pool area. Well, even if it's shut slightly, it's very loud. So anyway, apologize about that. Now we're gonna rest the forearm again. Scoop up the other arm and stretching that side. Reaching through the fingertips, twisting, then breathing. Releasing. Maybe turning that neck a little bit, getting that full twist. Returning back and returning to our mountain pose. Now, I always enjoy doing some triangle pose, Trikonasana, because I can really feel the opening along the entire length from the heel all the way up through the thigh and the side of the body, into the fingertips. Let's return the original leg again back, just like we're going towards Warrior One. However long the stance, I think to properly do this, you'd have to have like a little bit longer stance or whatever. I don't know if there's a proper way, but a safe, effective way is whatever's feels like it's effective for you and it's safe, basically. So here's the basic kind of westernized group fitness class version, is where you have the heels kind of in line with each other, but the slight micro bend in the front knee. It's not like locks, but it's not bent either. Like slightly just open. And then you're going to raise both arms and then move, bending the front arm towards the front forward leg. Both legs are still pretty straight, but the little micro bend in that front knee. And reaching up from here, because I'm not just dumping down like this, but I'm gauging and I'm really feeling the stretch in the upper side body. While reaching through the fingertips and looking up towards the thumb. Twisting the neck. So just getting a real stretch there. Breathing. And releasing. If it's effective, it's good. If you want to, you can reach down towards the toes. If you want to put one arm down and put it on your back hip, fine. There's all different modifications, but that's the general. If I was teaching a group of people, that's generally how I would probably teach it. Then, here's before coming through. We'll switch to the other side, the same posture with the feet kind of ready to go into warrior one, but micro bend in the front knee and extending the arms, bending towards that side. Really noticing any sensation along the legs, up all the way into the spine, the neck, reaching through the fingertips, breathing. Again, if you want, you can always go a little more. You might go a little out of alignment, but then you'll get a different sensation as long as it's safe and effective. But for that, you might need some more experience with practice. You don't want to just force anything or just because it looks a certain way. Then we'll return to the mountain pose.
So I'll go from left to right for what we have. On our left, we have the drill area with the drill.
Take a break. Rolling out our ankles.
Have muscle here in the back of the pool. We have a kind of area we get by area as well. We allow 2 heads per resident.
And we're noticing our arms, if there's any difference in mobility. Opening up. So let's move into a chest opening posture. We can press our fists here into the lower back. It's not in the muscle of the lower back, it's further down. It's muscle, yes, but it's kind of on the top part of the bony hip here. So top of the pelvis. Squeezing the shoulder blades together and opening the chest. You're pressing into that, and then you're opening the chest. Now we can feel some opening. I think if I came out here closer to morning or closer to evening, the lighting would be better. And maybe even less activity. But I think with this microphone, it's drowning out some of the noise. However, the lighting is kind of, that's the thing. All right. Now we'll move into balance pose because in yoga, generally we start with some kind of warm-up, awareness, movement, some work, and then we move towards some kind of balance, and then going down towards the mat. You don't always have to do it this way, but that's the general class format if you're to teach a group fitness class. So, at the balance pose, let's do a standing pigeon type pose. As an option, you can just stand like this with your feet crossed, or you can bring that above that ankle, resting above the opposite thigh. And you can even stay here, do the little prayer pose to kind of feel stability. Everything's kind of connected with everything else. And it kind of helps focus attention on engaging those muscles properly. You're not just wobbling all over the place. If I'm here, I might, the core's not as braced as well, I don't think. So I can be more aware when everything's kind of, even though it's a balanced pose, it's kind of closed, more of a closed position. You can even bend forward a little bit, reaching towards the toes, or coming back up and then moving to the other side. And here, let's cross the other above the ankle, above the other knee. Flat back. Of course, it's not entirely flat with the spine, but generally kind of a straight back, not really rounding forward too much. You can if you want, that's another option. But in this case, we're hinging forward from the hips and then kind of releasing as we release. Just to notice the sensation around the hip muscles as we're folding forward. We're used to rounding the upper back, but we're not used to maybe feeling some other sensations. Then let's return to the standing. Okay. I didn't really plan this class, but I said it's going to be 45 minutes and I don't want to spend forever on meditating. So from here, we can do moving back down to the ground of the mat. So let's find a seated posture and we'll just move into some stretching. A little more active pose here. The reverse something, it's like a reverse tabletop. Like we're going to place our hands behind a little bit further behind our backs, not at our hips. And a reverse plank, basically, is what it's called. But I forget the name, the actual pose. I was watching a wasp there because there's a wasp nest right there. All right. And pressing the hips up towards the sky, opening the chest away, opening the shoulders away from the chest, and pressing the hips up. Taking a few breaths, flexing back down. You can do a seated forward fold. Again, trying to move towards the flat back, raising the arms overhead, and then folding forward. Taking a few breaths here. And what I'd like to do is nothing too fancy that enjoys the knee joint, that it involves the knee joints. As an option, you could bring one foot inside and move into a half lotus or full lotus. I'm not really able to even move into a half lotus because everything's not really, But you can also just do cross leg. Place to start. Then let's do forward fold here. If you're in a half lotus or full lotus, this would be more, you would feel the sensation from this way as well. Pull it down. And then opening the chest. So we're going to open up, placing the hands behind our sides, and then opening up. Then let's cross the legs the other way. Now, for me, if I'm in like moving towards half lotus, I can feel it all throughout the chain, connecting when I fold forward, so we can fold forward here. But I would not suggest doing that unless you're aware of the knee joint being closed and not putting strain on it. But if it's in your practice, it's up to you. And then returning to the chest opening pose. And opening through the back. That was a bee, that wasn't a wasp. Or a magpie or something. We'll do a tabletop, so reverse tabletop, sorry. Planting both feet on the ground. Placing both hands further back and pressing hips, opening the chest and pressing the hips up towards the sky. So feeling gratitude for where we are today, our practice. Pointing the toes a bit. That feels good. More of a stretch. We'll move it one more forward, please. It's pretty typical, but bringing awareness around the hips, raising the arms overhead, reaching through the fingertips, and then stretching, reaching forward. That's about as far as my arms go above my head with proper alignments. There you go. So for the last 5 minutes here of the practice, we're gonna roll down towards the back. We'll do some more hip awareness. Let's do a bridge pose. We're gonna bring our hands, the fingertips to the sides, next to the heels. I usually have my feet in line with my knees and my hips. And then my middle finger touches kind of like the outer edge of my heel. Kind of where I'm at. Spreading the fingers wide and then pressing the hips up to the sky. Now I'm not like a one-on-one specific teacher. So that's just the way, it's a general area where I put my hands. I'm sure if you're learning a certain technique, like Ashtanga or something, it would be more specific. That's an option if you want to try wheel. Definitely if it's too much strain, you don't want to force anything on your upper back or fall on your head. We can place both hands at the side. I still don't have wheel, but this is my attempt here. And just working into it. It's the process. Pressing the hips up to the sky. Pressing the arms up and down. I have to do that a few times without feeling strain. It's definitely a stretch to the abs. I really didn't do a warming practice, so I wouldn't attempt that too many times. Now let's extend, see what time it is. Yeah, we'll return to the seated posture. Turning to the seated posture is an option. You can work towards half lotus, full lotus. Noticing any difference in our attachments to hips. We're going to reach to a side stretch pose. So bringing one arm overhead, bring it to the side, and then reaching the fingertips to the other side. Looking up just like we did in that lunge pose. Then the other side. Reaching up, feeling the sit bones rooted into the mat. Reaching through the fingertips and stretching overhead. Weight a lot needs to be released there. You know, we can also do a seated straddle pose here. So, getting into that seated straddle pose, I can't even get to the seated part of it, but that would be with the flat back, by the way. But just moving into whatever sensation I'm feeling. My lower back, it's more rounded still, but you want to move towards that lower back, being a little bit more with a posterior pelvic tilt. Right, this would be an anterior. This would be an anterior pelvic tilt. So you're trying to move it. So instead of being rounded, you're trying to move your hips forward. Then bending forward from the hips, reaching forward for a few breaths. I think it's getting to be like 90 to maybe 80 something, 90 degrees out here. That helps with the warming. I'm just going to open up my chest a little bit, move my hips, roll my hips more anteriorly, then exhaling, pulling forward. You probably hear the music in the background. I hear it loudly. But with this microphone, hopefully it's putting my voice in the forefront. Well, we'll see when the recording comes out. This is trial and error. Because if there's a lot of wind, traffic in the background or whatever, still just pick up the microphone. I'm using the Rode Wireless Go, Rode 2, I think this one is. This might be this is Rode 2. RODE, the Rode microphone system. Turning back, if seated. Now, I'm still feeling like I need to do a front of the hip flexor stretch. So let's move towards kind of a upward facing dog. What we'll do is we'll lower down to the mats. And then we'll press up from the mats into like a mini cobra pose, they call it. And then maybe even pressing up further so you're feeling the stretch in the front of your hips. This is more of a dancer type stretch if you're pointing your toes and you're stretching the hips in this fashion. It's not really a yoga pose. If you want, you can twist gently to each side. Feel that in my lower back, just gently, and lowering down. If you want, you can also even spread your legs further and do more of a dancer stretch, but definitely bringing awareness into the hips and the lower back. Joints, taking the time and not forcing anything. But you can feel all those ligaments working through that. Now we'll move back into phallus pose. Here, sitting back, the hips towards the heels, then reaching forward with the arms, lowering the forehead towards the mat. Right. Definitely some a need for opening the upper back there. But from here, we can sit into a meditation posture, or if you want, you can move onto Shavasana pose. Shavasana, that would be extending the legs and arms, laying down on the back. And we place like resting pose here. That's one option. If I'm leading a class, I'm not going to lay down in Shavasana. I'll probably be seated. But in this case, I'm going to sit in Zen meditation style. So that's where you can use a cushion or a bench, or if you want to just sit back on your heels. And from here, we can form what's called the cosmic mudra, which is placing the left hand into the right. I believe it's the same for men and women. Left hand into the right, bringing the thumbs slightly touching each other, maintaining that posterior pelvic tilt, opening the chest, relaxing, and resting that right hand and then the left hand on top of the hips, on top of the front of the hips there, thighs rather. And raising the top of the head up towards the sky. We'll stay here for about 5 minutes. Silent meditation. So we're turning our awareness into the environment. Moving the body a bit. It's- There you have it. It's out of room, releasing, breathing, stretching, twisting, moving, bringing awareness. And it's heated out here, so it's a little bit more easy to move into those postures. Thanks for joining today. Have a great day. Namaste.